So if you're watching this, there's probably a good chance you've already seen my Comedy Central special, Controlled Chaos, or the DVD. That means you probably saw the opening where Achmed drives in his Achmedmobile. Well, that car wasn't always the Achmedmobile. It started out as a vehicle that was pretty well known in the hot rod world. It's called the defibrillator, and we'll be talking to the two guys who built it in just a little while. But before that, I want to talk about the skull that's on top. Now, what you saw was Achmed, but this is now, right now, when I'm talking to you, 1 month before we taped Controlled Chaos. So there is no Achmedmobile right now. There's the car, but the skull on top is not Achmed. It's this skull right here. And I just removed this off the car. And if it's going to turn into the Achmedmobile, I'm going to have to take this skull and turn it into what looks a lot more like Achmed. Now, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do it the same way that I've always sculpted my dummies. Here, by the way, is a photo that I just found, which is of the sculpt of Achmed when I made his head out of clay before we did the molds and then turned them into fiberglass. But that's the clay Achmed, the very first incarnation of what he was going to look like. And that's what I'm going to have to do with this skull right here. Now, it's metal. These guys made it out of metal. They welded it all together. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take clay, some clay and some foam and all the typical ways of putting a head together that I usually do and make this clay foam thing. And then, of course, we'll make a mold of that, and then we'll make a fiberglass copy of this metal head, and that will be what goes on top of the vehicle. This thing is really cool. The guys did a great job. I mean, when you hit the accelerator on the car, the mouth opens up just like that. And also what looks like the butterflies on the carburetor open up and his eyes open up. They're not really, but it's all controlled together, so it looks the same way. So I'll be using this photograph, and I will also be using one of our little Achmed hand puppets to show what his face looks like to give me some reference. So stick around. We'll see what happens, and this should be fun. And it's kind of weird because you've seen what I haven't done yet, but I haven't seen it yet.
We want it to be a cartoon car, and again, that car that you draw. And a big part of that element was you got your head sticking out of the roof and you got your gear shift knob sticking out of the roof. So think about what we had to do to build that car. So that body was lowered way down, the seat was elevated, and you actually drive that car with the upper part of your shoulders and head completely sticking out of the roof, and the gear shift knob sticks completely out of the roof. Again, completely functional, completely drivable.
Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm taking pieces of what's called carving foam, and it's just some foam that's made for carving. They use it for making cars and all kinds of stuff like that. And basically what I do is I cut the pieces to shape, and I'll be gluing them on here and there and everywhere, and then you can take your finger and you can really shape this stuff. You can use tools, you can use whatever, and that helps start making the face. And I've got to make them look, you know, like this guy. So hopefully that face will start to look like that. You know what? This is stupid. This is really ancient technology. I got a better way to do this. Follow me. I honestly don't know why I didn't think of this before. I have all this technology at my fingertips. Why in the world would I want to use clay and foam? What I'm doing here with a three-dimensional scanner is scanning a bobblehead of Achmed. I just took one of our bobbleheads that we sell, yanked the head off, put it in here, and started scanning it. And what this three-dimensional scanner does, it gives you a file of whatever you scan in 3 dimensions. So here we have Achmed. Achmed in 3 dimensions, in a computer file. But then what do you do after that? I'm trying to make something big and giant to go on the top of the Achmedmobile, a giant head. Well, there's what it's called 3D printers. And what a 3D printer does is it can take your file and print it in 3 dimensions. A regular printer prints a picture. This prints a thing. So I got to my 3D printer and printed a smaller version of the Achmed bobblehead. Slightly smaller, by like 20%. Looks perfect, just like it. And then I thought, all right, let's make it bigger. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to take this scan right here, and we cut it into 6 sections. Sections small enough that the printer could print. It could only print something as tall as 12 inches by 10 inches by 10 inches. But we need a head this big of Achmed. So we cut it into pieces, hollowed out the scan, and I test printed a section of Achmed's face. This is just a single layer of basically what's going to be an Achmed mask. So this is the front part of him right there. And okay, a little bigger worked, but now we need to do it a lot bigger and a lot thicker. So we went to the 3D printer, here it is, and that's again what made those pieces, and started printing out big pieces of Achmed's head, a giant Achmed skull. And here's an example of one of the pieces. And this, if you can tell, is the Achmed jaw. This is the inside of the mask. So it's just a piece of it. This is his cheekbone. This is what's called support material. I stopped it halfway through the printing process so I could show this to you. But this comes out of the printer just like this. So then what I did is I took all the pieces and I glued them together to a giant Achmed head, and now we'll see what we do after that. Fiberglass, putty, mechanisms, the whole thing. This is going to work. Cool. And I still have all my fingers. Woo! So this is the copy of the defibrillator skull that Dragon made. It's fiberglass, and I just finished cutting the eyes out of it and the bottom out of it. And now I'm going to go mount it onto the what will be the Achmedmobile, and we're going to hook up all the mechanics and the gears and the chain and all the cool stuff that goes over here to make sure it all fits and works. And then I'll be chopping off parts of the face and taking the Achmed face that I printed on the 3D printer and mounting it on here and mounting the jaw and making sure everything works. And then it will start to look like Achmed. Now, the first test fitting to see if the Achmed face looks good on the car. That looks pretty awesome. Now I just have to make sure the jaw fits and that the jaw works, because when you push on the accelerator, the jaw opens up. Oh yeah. Got a little bit of work to do. Maybe pulling some all-nighters because we filmed the cold opening in 2.5 days. Greetings, infidels! That works. I don't care who you are, that's awesomely cool. So now I'm putting the tray that the parts end up on and back in the 3D machine, and the parts will come out on this tray. Right now we're making the bombs for the Achmedmobile wheels, like hubcaps. And we've gone over the computer and we've created an actual model of a bomb. So we can actually say that Achmed, for the first time, really is building a bomb. It is now a day and a half before we shoot the cold opening. We have to paint it at noon tomorrow to have it ready. And I'll show you this. So this right here, see this? That right there, that little part of the eye, apparently in the scan, I didn't see that it missed it. So I'm having to add that back in here.
It's 20:02 a.m.
Yes? Oh, hi. We're back.
Here we are, back at
Here we are.
Jeff Dunham's garage.
Yeah, and
Welcome to Achmed's Pit of Despair.
yeah, and it's looking great, actually. So the glove has a hole in it now. like this. So it's good that I have gloves. But this finger is the best because it's not completely flat because it's all glue. See that cream that Steve's been putting on there to fill in the holes? He's been doing it all night. But we haven't told him that you have to mix in hardener first. So this is the primer coat, and all it does is it gives it a consistent coat all the way across the thing, and you're able to see any little flaws in there. And we go back with what's called spot putty. Like you can see right there, you can see one of the seams dee-dee-dee-dee, right up there where we didn't fill it in with the spot putty before. So now before painting, we'll go back in and we'll just touch up a couple of those major imperfections. One of the coolest things that I like about this is that this right here was the bobblehead, just back to here. So then when we had to extend it, just like the defibrillator skull was, we had to match the cloth look on top of this for the rest of the long head. And we did that by, I took pieces of fiberglass cloth and soaked them in resin and then just laid it up against the existing hat and then kind of just brought it back like this and connected it to the bottom of the fiberglass, and so instead of having that flat skull look like on the defibrillator, now it looks like he has his turban on. Came out pretty well. Can't wait to see it painted. Well, after painting the skull, it looked awesome, but needed something more. So I decided to give him silver eyes and silver teeth. The original defibrillator had that and it looked cool. And I think if I know Achmed very well, he would want this skull to look menacing. And I think the silver eyes and the silver teeth add to that.
The car being changed in the Achmedmobile is, it's bringing it back to life again. It sat around for a while and didn't do too many shows, and now it's going to do some big shows. So he'll be happy.
So here it is, the Achmedmobile complete and ready to roll with Achmed's image on top of it. This thing is great. It's not only ornamental and cool looking, but it actually has a function. When you hit the gas, the mouth opens up and the air goes inside and goes through the air filters that are in his head and into the carburetor, into the heavy engine. And yeah, I think it's kind of fun. And now we're getting ready to take this thing out into the upper desert in Lancaster, California, and we're going to put it through its paces and tape the opening of the DVD, which you've already seen. I have not seen it because we haven't done it yet, but this is pretty fun, pretty cool. Good friends and my gun. It's a good day.